has nothing to do with your belief. You could believe that Jesus was the Son of God. You could believe that Jesus was human. You could believe that Jesus didn't even exist.
Yeah.
But what did exist was this group of people called early Christians.
However, very late in the Second Temple period, a fifth Jewish sect had started to form, that of the earliest Christians. And this fifth sect survived the destruction as well.
But I like how he talked about and addressed what we're talking about with history and the line and everything has nothing to do with your belief. You could believe that Jesus was the Son of God. You could believe that Jesus was human. You could believe that Jesus didn't even exist.
Yeah.
But what did exist was this group of people called early Christians.
Yes.
And that's reminding myself that constantly during this deconstruction process, even subconsciously, has been so helpful.
Yeah, because you do get that undercourse of this is the only Christianity that's the real Christianity, and this is how it's supposed to look and has always looked from the time of Antioch. Like, at least that's what I got. We've been doing this the same way since Antioch, and like going back through it and going, oh no, we haven't.
Yeah, right.
No, we haven't. Was really jarring as a teenager, especially if you have like such a firm foundation that you're so sure of. And that's the thing, like you get to teenagehood and you get to that, okay, I'm feeling like an adult, I'm acting like an adult, I have these very firm, solid beliefs underneath me, and that's what they are, and this is how the world works. And then all of a sudden something like this comes up and it's just like, oh, there's no mortar between those bricks. There's that's a brick gone. And then all of a sudden everything is really, really shaky and really, really unstable. And it's not good necessarily, but it's also like a canon event for every teenager ever in existence. Like yeah. So it was wild for me as a fundamentalist to be like, oh, this is a lot. There's a whole cult of Mary Magdalene over there I didn't know about. There's a gospel of Mary Magdalene I didn't know about. That's really beautiful writing, by the way.
I've yet to read that one.
10/10, highly recommend.
Me too.
But yeah.
These earliest Christians were Jews. In fact, many of the earliest Christians were likely former Pharisees, such as Paul. But it's also likely that there were some zealots as well. After all, one of the 12 disciples was named Simon the Zealot. There also seems to have been a heavy Essene influence on early Christianity, considering that both groups were apocalyptic, meaning that they believed in a hidden spirit world that was about to be revealed. The only Jewish group that Christianity didn't seem to draw heavily from was the Sadducees.
I think it's, for me, deconstructing so late, I'm having to remind myself that people were involved. Like, it's not just that we believed that Jesus was God. No, there were early Christians. There were people involved running this, pushing it, forming it, highlighting it, removing stuff, adding stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That regardless of what you believe about him or not, existence or not, the people were very much there.
Yes.
And for some reason, it's something I keep thinking, and it just helps me like reframe whatever I'm studying or something, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It makes total sense because that's not the angle we got as kids about history. I mean, there were the people specifically named in the Bible passages. Yeah. But outside of those specific people named in the Bible passages, it was just an ephemeral movement through time.
That was an $8 word.
That was was that an $8 word? I read the dictionary from cover to cover as a child for fun. It's this idea of like the way we were taught history removes the human element from it. Like the Spirit of God pushed the Bible through. The Spirit of God, and it takes the humans out of the picture. There were actual people with their hands on papyrus and ink and paper and ink, pushing this through society and through the systems.
I'll change the settings when we're ready to play. You stopped yourself mid sentence.
Did I?
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah. Keep pushing.
Yeah, because, and then without the people, without the human hands on it, I can say, well, God wanted it to be that way. The Bible is the way the Bible is because God wanted it to be that way. And I can take the human element out of it.
That's what I was given. I was given a humanless Bible.
And that's that ephemeral force, that unexplained spiritual mystical force pushing it through history, and it just magically appearing assembled the way it's assembled, because
So
we
that
don't
came
want to
from
talk
the
about the human
Essenes?
hands.
So that came from the Essenes.
Probably an element of it
The
would
mystical.
be, yeah. I mean, I could say that. I wouldn't be sure of it, but it's definitely a. It's a cool concept, but it's one that has been politically motivated for a very long time to take the people out of the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely see why that reminder in particular is important.
It's very helpful. It's very, very helpful for sure.
Because a lot of and it's also the really hard part of having family that won't deconstruct, is that's the kind of stuff you're up against. Like reminding them that, hey, people were involved in every step of this process.
And I would be told that when I was younger, but I was also given the words to rebut that.
Yeah.
Look, well, yes, someone had to actually write that down, but just as the pen is what's actually writing the word, a hand is holding the pen.
So
it's the same. Your
so
hand.
God possessed the writers. I mean, that wouldn't be out of the.
No.
That would not be out of the realm of the answer.
Like, God literally was making sure that every single scratch and jot and tittle. It says it in the Bible. Okay, it says jot and tittle.
No,
so
I know it does.
It does. But that's what I was taught, was that literally there's pictures in people's houses of, a scribe sitting there writing down with God standing over his shoulder,
and the expectation
light.
And the expectation is that the scribe is in a trance state and God has possessed him to write. So if he makes an error, it's a God intended error.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what you're up against.
And that doesn't even just mean the original writing. That is all the translations.
Yeah.
As well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people involved that didn't know
what they were doing.
Because there's a lot of people that have touched translations. And that's the kind of where this whole video is going.
Right.
We might have just jumped to the end.
But it's interesting, like these kind of videos are overwhelming to watch if you have only the background we were given.
Well, yeah, I had to watch the first 13 minutes 4 times. And I still have questions.
She does. She has like 4 questions.
4 questions. So far. I already watched this part. We're not even 10 minutes in yet. 3-hour video. Y'all are in here for a long time.
Oh.
However, in addition to Jews, early Christianity also attracted people from a group known as the God-fearers. God-fearers were basically Gentiles, in other words, non-Jews, who were nonetheless very sympathetic towards Judaism and often liked to participate in Jewish customs without actually converting.
I'm going to pause for just a second because I cannot stress enough the importance of understanding, especially for deconstructing, that the Gentile God-fearers, like, not necessarily being Judaic, but participating in Judaic traditions, like, I cannot stress enough how normal that was
between Gentiles and Jews, or
in general,
in religion
across general religious lines. Like today, if you put on a hijab and you're practicing Ramadan, people are going to assume you're Muslim because you're practicing Muslim practices, or Islamic practices. And it follows that if you're practicing, well, you must be. And that is very much not what was going on at this time. It was so normal for religions to just, like, I am technically practicing Hellenism, but I really like this one practice from Judaism, so I'm just gonna snick that and still, like, go to that party and
so it's very individual.
Do that ritual and sacrifice at that temple, but I'm also still keeping all of my Hellenistic gods at home. Like, that was very normal at that time. Okay. And that is why a lot of these religions that were right next to each other seem to be borrowing back and forth from each other, because that was a very open and acceptable thing to do, without that solid, oh well, you observe the midsummer ritual, so you must be a druid. Like, they didn't have that mentality.
Gotcha.
That we have today regarding religion, where it's very open, closed, cut, dry. If you do it, you must be it. Like,
well, and it kind of has to be with how Christianity, as we know it today, is built.
It does. It's one of those things, like, I cannot stress enough how normal that handshake was at that time. Yeah. Because we don't have it today. And that is the literal and actual context.
In contrast to the Jewish Christians were the Pauline Christians, who primarily consisted of Gentiles. Again, Gentiles are simply non-Jews. The word Pauline refers to the Apostle Paul, who died shortly before the destruction of the temple.
All right, before we go into the Council of Nicaea, because that's a whole thing.
That is a whole thing.
I have not made it this far.
So this is all new information.
This is all new information.
I remember
Agnostic.
our Bible class, because Bible is a subject.
Yes,
Bible is a subject, and it was purple. If you know, you know. Our textbooks would skip from 70 CE and the temple being destroyed all the way down to 180 CE. Like, they would talk about Paul as if the great church was already there.
Yes, that's what I was going to talk about.
So, like, there was no, like, there was just this big old jump, and we're just going to shove Paul into the great church, even though he died before the temple was destroyed. Like, they would talk about it, and it became very, very difficult to pin down a true timeline of any of this stuff, because the textbooks would never be clear about it.
On purpose. From what I've learned.
Yeah. Because they don't want to talk about the fact that the great church, as we learned about it, was like 100 years after Paul died.
More than that.
I actually, like,
it was almost 200 years after Jesus was born.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
That alone is a long time.
Yeah.
Paul wrote much of the New Testament and is credited with introducing Christianity to the Gentiles. In his writings, he argues that Gentile Christians should not be required to follow Jewish customs, such as circumcision and not eating pork. In fact, Paul's main message was that Jesus' death and resurrection introduced a new covenant that superseded Jewish law.
And to go along with what you're saying, that we didn't talk about Paul that much, that might sound weird, but
no,
like from a curriculum standpoint,
we didn't, and they were very, very careful to shove him far forward, and they were very, very careful to, like, they talked about things that Paul said as if, like, they never did it directly. It was very, very shady. They would talk about stuff that Paul said as if it was the word of Jesus Christ. They never said that directly, but the implication was very
Well, it was
heavy.
in the Bible, so anything in the Bible is like the Word of God.
And so they could just glaze over Paul. Like, yeah, Paul happened, but Paul was the father of the great church. Which leaves you like with the feeling that he was alive during that great church period.
Yes.
But turns out he wasn't.
But yeah, like you got the Paul this, Paul that in church with his sermons, and he said this to this group of people and this to this group of people. But from a historical textbook standpoint, we didn't talk about Paul that much. And that's actually something that's been very interesting to realize, that most people call this the Pauline Christians.
Yeah.
And how much not
they were just the real Christians.
Not control, but how much of what is considered the great church / the current church, the current evangelical church, is Paul.
Yes.
It's not Jesus. It's not
huge chunks of what.
It's so much Paul forward. And Paul everything. Didn't even meet him.
No. And
right?
Paul,
they didn't even meet each other. But that's the brilliancy.
Very heavily on Paul. And at least in the school books, I remember this. I remember being really, really unsettled by this, because at least in the school books and potentially in conversations, the implication that, well, Jesus said this through Paul.
Yeah, that.
Like, wait, what does that mean exactly?
Well, we're back into a trance.
We're back into a trance state.
Yes, because
it's okay if Christians do it, but if any other religion does it, possessed by my deity, yeah, that's gonna go bad.
Yeah.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I hear is rules for thee, but not for me. Yeah, that's all I can hear.
It's really interesting to go to realize how much Paul was at the center.
Yeah.
Again, a human being.
Yeah.
Not
non-divine.
It's not like
even the child of a divine.
It's not like the great church was made while Jesus was on the earth. That would have made more sense.
It really would.
Yeah. This is the church of Jesus, not the church of Paul.
Except it is the church of Paul.
Right. That's
because it took so long. And it wasn't even the church. I mean, it is the church of Paul, but Paul was long dead before
so why
his church rose to popularity.
Yeah, there's still so much more I need to learn about Paul. That was not taught to me correctly. Even because there's Bible books he hasn't, that he actually didn't write.
Yeah, he is attributed to authoring certain gospels or epistles that we're not 100% sure he did.